consider. All right, so a very good afternoon, evening to everyone, depending from where we are connected. So again, I would like to ask you once again the confirmation that everyone is fine by recording this session so that it can be displayed in the future. Is that okay? Okay. Thank you very much. So it will be used also as a dissemination, and whoever cannot connect today or cannot be inside the Zoom can still follow us either live streaming or watch it later on YouTube. And Annalyn Foundation would like possibly to spread in their channels. So thank you very much for being here to all of us. And I would like to welcome you to this first roundtable session of the Away from Home project. That is, it was written in a partnership between System and Generation Association from Turkey and Sustainable Cooperation for Peace and Security from Italy. Today, we are starting, this is our first session, and we are focused on legal framework and analysis of the refugees issue at the city level. It will be a very interesting starting point, and we have a really great special guest speaker, Mrs. Sinem Göçhan. As she's, I will give the floor to her, but I can mention she's currently project team leader at Support to Life, and formerly she was senior protection assistant at the UN Refugee Agency. So welcome, Sinem.
Hello.
Thank you very much for being here with us.
The floor is with me now. Okay.
I will just give a very short round presentation, and then I will give back to you. Just to mention, we will have in this project, again, is part of the Annalyn Foundation Intercultural Cities and Learning Program, co-founded by the European Union. And we will have 3 different sessions. The first one is today, as we mentioned, on the legal framework of the refugees issue. Second one, we will focus more on the refugees' main itineraries, especially on the Asiatic and Libyan routes. And the last one will be on climate refugees as a new emergent phenomenon. These are the main topics, areas in which we will focus. So yes, I will give the floor to each of us briefly. If you would like to say just your name, where you are connected, if you would like to add anything like your interest in the topic, and then we will start with Ms. Sinem. So maybe we can start with Gulay. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Of course, will be my pleasure. My name is Gülay Fitos. I was born in the Netherlands, still living in the Netherlands. I'm a migrant myself, not a refugee, but a migrant woman. I have my own foundation called A New Path to Equality, and I'm very happy to listen to you, to be enlightened, and where I can, you know, perhaps add something, or let's see. Thank you so much for inviting.
Thank you very much. And we give the floor to Marius, our partner from Italy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marius Riceveri, President and co-founder of Sustainable Cooperation for Peace and Security. I'm based in a small city called Mantova, and there are a few people that are joining from Mantova now. You see here Giovanni Lasagna, Gianni Guerzoni, Salvatore Trotta that are here, but they are working at the moment or studying. So maybe, I'm not sure if they're going to turn on their video later because they are working, but they are going to listen actively and maybe also do some interventions. And so we are a young association, so we were created only 6 months ago. We basically work on 2 United Nations Security Council resolutions, 1325 on women, peace and security, and 2250 on youth, peace and security, connected with the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is what we do at the moment. We are really interested on the topic of refugees. So for this reason, together with System and Generation, we wanted to do a project on it because it has been like a hot topic here in Italy. And so we wanted to give like a framework for everyone to understand a bit who is a refugee, what is the reason that they move from they leave their home countries. And so here we are together. So we're going to get these 3 conferences, and we have also a research project that we are carrying on together with System and Generation. And thank you very much, Jacopo, for have taken us as a partner. So I'm really glad for it. Thank you.
Thanks to you for helping us so much. It wouldn't be possible without our cooperation, so thanks a lot. And thank you for your presentation. I will proceed with Miss Antoniette.
Yes, am I mute? Yeah. So my name is Antoinette Mutesa. I was invited by Gulai, and I'm living in the Netherlands, sorry. But actually, I think excited about listening to you guys, so I didn't really have something to say in my head. But to relate to the topic, I've came to the Netherlands 13 years ago as a refugee, so this is a topic that is close to my heart. I am the honorary consul of Sierra Leone to the Netherlands since very short, but everything related to refugee is about a path, and it's a story that we would have to tell. So I'm happy to share my experience with you and to see how we can contribute to your initiative. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. It will be a great pleasure after the presentation to hear from you. Thank you. Okay, then I will proceed with the trio, Ezra, Nelly, and Annalisa. Welcome. Nelly, sorry, can you speak either closer or louder? We cannot hear you.
Hello, I'm Nelly from Italy, Mantova too. I'm 35 years old and also volunteering for SNG.
Simplemente lo que tienes que hacer es estudiar, repasar y luego hacer.
Okay, you can proceed.
Hello everyone, my name is Annalisa. I'm from Italy. I am a new volunteer in SNG association. I'm 30 years old. I get a graduate in economy and law. That's it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ezra. I'm from Turkey. I studied human resources, but I'm also interested about topics included refugees. So I'm happy to be here. Nice to meet you all. Thank you, Jacopo.
Thank you. Thanks to you. Thanks a lot for being here. And we proceed with Francesca.
Hi everyone, I'm Francesca. I'm from Italy, but currently I'm living in Ankara. I am a volunteer with System and Generation. I've been in Ankara for 1 year, more or less. I know something about the situation here and also something about the situation in Italy, but I look forward to know more, to have a better understanding. Thanks to the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Naomi and Ikram, could you be next one, please?
Hi, I'm Naomi. I'm from Spain. I am a volunteer in System and Generation. I usually work in the past with refugees and with migrants. Yes, I am really interested to study this topic here and to understand the situation here in Turkey. Thank you so much for inviting me. Well, it's my turn, I guess. Hi, everyone. My name is Ikram. I'm also from Spain. I'm also a long-term volunteer here in System and Generation in Ankara. And I studied the international and European law, specialized in refugees and migration policy. So I'm really looking forward to this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if I may mention, they're doing a great job in Ankara. They work with some refugees' families. So I will say this youth we listened so far, they're very active in this issue, and it will be great from us to improve more our theoretical knowledge, at least, as we maybe work in the field, but we don't know too much maybe on the background. Thank you very much. And let's proceed with Bura. Can you be our next?
I hope you hear me. Hey, Graham, can you close your voice? Wait for it, please. I think you hear my voice well right now. Firstly, I am Bura. I am the coordinator of the system generation. For topic, actually, I'm reading news, hearing something, but actually I'm not with knowledge all the time. I wish you good luck with your leads, actually. I think I will learn a lot of things for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm reading one message from the chat from Salvo. He's saying hi to everyone. Salvo from Pavia. At the moment, he cannot speak. He's just listening, and he's an IT consultant. So we welcome him. Thank you. And I will give the floor to Giovanni.
He's in the library studying.
Oh, okay.
So he can listen. He's from Mantova as well, and he's studying communication science, but he's only listening because he's in the library. Okay, so he can't take the mic.
Okay. So I will try with Gianni. Can you be our next speaker? Maybe, okay, maybe they're also not available for speaking. Let me try. Forgive me if I misspell your name. I'm doing my best. Lesego. Can you hear us? All right, and I will proceed with, this is difficult. Joharya, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I am Joharya Farheen from Bangladesh. Currently, I'm living in Ankara. I'm a medical student here. Although I'm not a volunteer in system and generation, I came to know about it recently from my friends. I look forward to volunteering as well. This is my first webinar with you guys, and I'm interested in refugee rights. And so, yeah, I look forward to it.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for being here with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Jan? Welcome, Jan.
Thank you.
Can you briefly introduce yourself? Just name whatever. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Jan. I live in Ankara. I'm 21 years old. And the topic draw attention of mine. So I am here a little bit late, but I am here.
Thank you very much. And before I will give the floor to our expert guest speaker, just to introduce briefly, my name is Jacopo. I'm from Italy. I work with system and generation in Ankara. And yeah, as I was mentioning, in the last year, we work quite a lot in the field with refugees. But yeah, we're very glad that we have this great opportunity to learn more and to also carry on our research, as Marius was mentioning, with sustainable cooperation for peace and security. We develop also a research that we're spreading as much as possible. And it's a great chance that we have some experts here helping us understanding more on the refugees issue. So I will now give the floor to Ms. Sinem. I will kindly ask if she can introduce herself and start with the session. Thank you very much.
First of all, hola, ciao, merhaba, and hello to everyone. I'm so glad to be here, and I would like to say that I have been working with the refugee crisis in Turkey for the last 6 years, and before that I was a lawyer for 8 years. So I have a vast experience with the legal framework and the humanitarian sector, and I want to thank you to Jacopo for including me, and hopefully the information I will relay to you will be helpful in any way you want to take. And I would like to also answer one question that came from Giovanni, and I want to say that yes, every European nation has experienced a refugee crisis since 1951, and I will actually include a little bit of history in my presentation, and maybe after that we can discuss what is the problem and what kind of solution we can come up with as individuals and as humanitarian actors. Is that acceptable? I hope yes. You can write if you cannot talk. And for those of you who cannot speak, please write the questions. We will definitely come back to it. And during my presentation, if there's anything that you're not clear about, please feel free to interrupt me. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you want, we can begin. And I want to say, please bear with me. These are heavy subjects and it's very complicated for those of you who are not very familiar, but of course, I will definitely try to make it into a more understandable context. And if everyone is okay, I would like to begin. Wonderful. All right then. Can you please give me a screen share authorization, Jacopo?
Yes, sure. Just a moment, I will make you co-host then. All right, you should be host now, so.
Yes, all right, here we go. Can everyone see the presentation? Wonderful. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone, and I actually approve of the Away From Home, but it's the From Home title of this webinar, because in a nutshell, the people who migrate, although it's a different subject, but asylum seekers and refugees are the ones who actually lost their homes and then trying to find a safe environment for themselves so that they can have a much more secure environment. But we will get into that. Before that, I would like to have an icebreaker. And this usually really helps with the webinars because it actually makes people more involved. So let's go with the, if you can, go to menti.com and enter the code. I will definitely start the presentation if you don't mind. And here we go. Let's see how are you feeling today, because we are all going to be doing an intense session, and I would like to know how you're feeling and how I can motivate you to be here till the end of it. You're welcome.
I've submitted. I don't know if we can read, or you will read it for us, I guess.
Oh, they can do it now. The participant can see my application now, I suppose. I just had a thing. Can you see it?
Because we see just the slide.
All right, hold on. Here we go. Can you see it now?
Okay. Yes, now yes.
For those of you who are feeling stressed, tired, or disappointment, and I hope that this will change. And I always feel like coffee always fixes the problem. If you have time, you can definitely have some. And we will. I very much thank you for your honest replies here. And hopefully by the end of the presentation, I will trying to lift your spirit up, even though we're gonna go into a very stressful subject. And now let's go a little bit into the actual topic, which is refugee. And I would like to see what you know about the term refugee. As I can see, you all know what refugee is, and hopefully we'll get into more of this subject now. I'm gonna stop the Menti and then go into the presentation now. Here we go. First of all, let's start with asylum seeker. An asylum seeker, as you guys all wrote, is a person who had to leave their country as a result of persecution or serious human rights violation, who has been subject to torture or unfair justice applications, and who are not unfortunately having access to their rights. When they go to another country for asylum seeker, their status is not yet improved, but they are applying for the refugee laws and systems in place in the country of asylum. And according to the statistics in UNHCR, in 2021, all over the world, 4.4 million people applied as an asylum seeker. Whereas migrants is not a refugee or an asylum seeker, they choose to move not because of a direct threat of persecution or death, but mainly to improve their lives by finding works, or in some cases for education, family reunion, or other reasons. Unlike refugees who cannot safely return home, migrants have no such difficulty, and they can return home or come back anytime they want according to their immigration visas. Now we go into the refugee, and a refugee is a person who has fled their own country because they're at risk of serious human rights violations and persecution. Just like asylum seeker, these individuals, when they apply to asylum and then they get registered in the country of asylum, they have the status of refugee. But it's definitely defined in the context of each country. I'm going to talk about how it is in Turkey. But according to statistics, again, in UNHCR, by mid-2021, 26.6 million people were displaced as a result of persecution, conflict, violence, human rights violations, and events seriously disturbing public order. I want to go with the statistics first, and then we can go into the legal framework. And as I have mentioned here, these are the statistics we have come up with UNHCR, and we can see that 84 million people were forcibly displaced. 26.6 are refugees. 4.4 million are asylum seekers, 48 million are internal displaced people. Internal displaced people mean that they cannot live in their homes, but they have to move to another location within their country as a result of natural disaster or conflict. And 3.9 million are Venezuelans displaced abroad. Maybe you guys know the situation in Venezuela where there was a conflict and people had to leave the country.
All right, so we are restarting. We had a little issue, but we restart with the presentation. So I will ask everyone to kindly confirm that you are okay with the recording. Okay, it will be used just for the dissemination of the Annalyn Foundation and for people who can watch it later on. Okay, thank you very much. We give back the floor to Sinem.
If you guys want, we can start from the beginning. It wasn't a lot. Yeah, and yeah, Antoinette wanted to join as well. And yeah. I don't see Gianni and Giovanni. And Ikram and Naomi, yeah.
Maybe they join late when they see the message. I sent them the message again.
Yeah, Gianni is here with us. I mean, Ikram, they're here. I guess we miss Antoinette, and the other will join. You can start, Sinem. I will deal with that.
Okay.
But I just sent. Oh, sorry. I just sent you Antoinette's number.
Okay, I will share with her. Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. This will be a memory that we will definitely talk about in the future. And let's go back to the serious subject that we were going on. And if you guys want, I can actually start, but I guess you all have a grasp in what a refugee, migrant, and asylum seeker is. So I will continue because we have a limited time. But let's go in the detail in Turkey. And in Turkey, currently the registered number of the Syrians here, because they are the ones under temporary protection, and it was a mass movement. It is 3,731,028 people. And these are the ones that are registered. And according to my experience, my knowledge, and the UNHCR statistics, almost 1 million who are not registered and who are in the process. It has been a vast movement. And according to UNHCR statistics, there are 330,000 people who are under international protection, and people under international protection are not from Syria. They are from other nations such as South Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, and many other countries. But with the IPs, Turkish government, especially the Directorate of General Migrant Management, who is under the Ministry of Interior, they don't usually post the number of people who are under international protection. They claim that they are the most vulnerable because they come with individual application for fear of persecution. So it is best to hide the number for their own good. And in Ankara, the Director of General for Migrant Management posted that there are currently living 102,229 thousand Syrians who are living in Ankara, including the districts in Ankara. It is a big number, but unlike the provinces in southeast Turkey, it is less. but currently you are all in, I think most of you are in Ankara. You can see that, again, it's a very high number. Like the highest number is in Istanbul and Gaziantep and Hatay and Urfa. And in Ankara, most of the headquarters in the country and other humanitarian agencies are approximately 40, in fact. They are operating in Ankara, but their operation usually is widespread through Turkey. And their main services are access to protection services, which is access to rights of the refugees under international law and national law, access to livelihood opportunities. Livelihood means their right to have economic empowerment. It can be employment, it can be training, access to vocational training, such as having a skill like hairdressing or mechanic or technical vocational training, which doesn't need a diploma, but with the certificate, they can actually find employment easily. And social cohesion. For those of you who don't know what social cohesion is, it's actually part of a reintegration of people who are refugees in the country so that they can be part of the community, host community, by means of trying to integrate them into the culture and being much more communicative with the host community. And there are many projects like this. Maybe some of you know that there have been tension in Ankara, especially with the host community against the Syrian community, which happened a couple of months ago, and this created a big movement within the Turkish government in order to eliminate the hate speeches in the social media, so that there is no such violent act against the refugees within the province. And now, if you don't have any question with regard to that, I think you will understand more with the legal framework. Now, this all started with the Second World War. Second World War, as you guys all know, was a big human rights violation. And after it ended, all of the European countries, all of the countries in the world said that we should have an act which will universally acknowledge the human rights. And Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 14, especially included refugee rights, where everybody has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. This right may not be invoked in the case of persecutions genuinely arising from non-political crimes or from acts contrary to the purposes or principles of the United Nations. For example, what does it mean? It means maybe this person has committed a war crime. This person has committed human trafficking crime, human rights crime, or which can be human trafficking or smuggling, or it can be any kind of crime which is against national security of a country where they want to seek asylum. There have been many cases, especially in the European Court of Human Rights, where people who suffered from the war criminals applied, or the countries who violated human rights, and this declaration is the starting point. And in 1951, the United Nations Convention relating to the status of refugees defined the refugee asylum seeker, which we actually addressed, and it was entered into force in 1954, and it has been expanded with an amendment in 1967 protocol. I will share with you the presentation I will give to Jacobo so that you can have the statistics, but if you want to have more information on this, you can visit the UN website where it has every document that I'm going to mention right now. The total number of state parties to the 51 Convention are 145. It's the vast majority of the countries within the world. Total number of state parties that are party to 67 protocol are 146, and who are both admitted this convention and integrated to their national laws are 142, and again, in total, 148 countries have either the 51 Convention or 67 Convention. There are other convention, especially 51 convention, who are only enrolled, admitted 51 convention are Madagascar, St. Kitts, and Nevis state parties, and 67 protocol only are United States of America, Venezuela, and Cabo Verde. According to Article 1A, 2 subsection of the 51 Convention term defines refugee and as an individual who seek asylum for fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, member of a particular social group or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality, and is unable or owing to such fear is unwilling to avail himself or herself of the protection of that country. Not having a nationality, means stateless people, and I can give you a very solid example, and that's Palestinians, because it's not a recognized state, and when they come to another country, they are usually considered as stateless. And being outside of the country of their habitual residence, and these are not limited to the ones in the 51 Convention. It can be because of sexual orientation as well, which has been included, or as a result of risk of being persecuted for any kind of sexual gender-based violence. I want to give you an important principle which is applied and definitely included in every country, is the principle of non-refoulement, which means that no person can be expelled or forcibly returned to the country where they were actually displaced from, where their freedom or basic human rights are threatened. States are not allowed to do that whatsoever. But there is an exception for that, and that is in the Article 33 of 51 Convention, in which it says, if there are reasonable grounds for regarding him or her as a danger to the security of the country. Just like before, I mentioned that there are exceptions to the rules about the asylum seeking and refugees, where people come and declare that they're a refugee, but that they actually, it is found that they committed a war crime, a human rights crime, and it's been found. For example, I'll give you an example. When there was a vast movement from Syria, there were several individuals who actually were part of Daesh, ISIS, as you guys know, and they were actually deported from Turkey because they were a threat to national security, which Turkey had the right to do. And just like I just mentioned, war crime, crime against humanity. Well, I just mentioned that, so I'm going to continue with the other, and then I would like to go to other international instruments. As a result of the 51 Convention on Refugee, the need for other conventions arose, especially Convention against torture, the rights of the child, civil and political rights, economic, social, cultural rights, elimination of all forms of racial discrimination, all forms of discrimination against women, which is called actually CEDAW, and rights of persons with disabilities, and International Convention for the Protection of all persons from enforced disappearance, which usually means that like human trafficking or smuggling of people. Now, on to the Turkish national law. There are two laws and regulations that are governing international protection and temporary protection. I want to go into detail with the temporary protection first, because in Turkey, just like I said, there are almost 4 million people who are under Turkey temporary protection. And this usually means vast mass movements from a country where there was a big conflict, and they cross the borders of Turkey in a mass influx, and they need immediate and temporary protection. The thing is, in Turkey, the temporary protection status has been going on for the last almost 10 years because the Syria crisis reached its 10-year anniversary, unfortunately, and their status is still under temporary protection because unlike international protection, the mass movement sometimes still continues, and they are not individual cases usually. They just come from a land where there's a conflict and they have no means to have a home or any kind of access to their basic needs, which is access to education, access to social assistance, and access to health or basic safety, or any kind of food or shelter. Now, as you know in the presentation, that what are the international law and the safeguarding, and the most important safeguarding here is the protection of refugees. Now, it is a very broad subject, but I would like to tell you what is protection first. Protection is a term that actually governs every individual under international protection or temporary protection who are considered vulnerable, and we can discuss the vulnerability in a bit, where they can have access to their legal representation, basic needs, shelter, food, and protection from any kind of violence or exploitation or abuse by means of having state protection, which laws are in effect, like criminal law. And of course, there's also access to livelihood opportunities, access to social assistance, which is usually under social services, where they can actually apply for socioeconomic support from the state. Now, when we talk about the vulnerabilities, usually the most at-risk people are usually women and children, unfortunately, and the disabled and elderly. That's usually a vastly observed situation in any country that is under the conflict, and they are usually subject to exploitation, sexual violence and abuse, human trafficking, organ trafficking. In fact, organ trafficking actually was found in Kosovo situation, and it was immediately has been widespread through whistleblower. Whistleblower is a mechanism where there's a violation of the humanitarian actors towards the people who they claim to assist. And there are many cases where you can find in the in Google and in Relief and in UNHCR, where you can find the cases that has specific definition of the situation. But the definition in the broader sense, in the universal sense of the protection, is all activities aimed at obtaining full respect for the rights of the individual in accordance with the letter and spirit of the relevant bodies of law, namely human rights law, international humanitarian law, and national law. I don't know why it's deleted. And what is legal protection of refugees? Legal protection of refugees does not start when the individual receives the legal refugee status. It starts with the asylum seeker when they first come to the country, when they apply for the international protection or temporary protection. And upon registration, their right is to have the recording, verification, updating of information on persons of concern with the aim of protecting and documenting them and of implementing durable solutions. One of the most important fundamental rights of the asylum seeker is registration. Think of it like this. You go to a country to seek asylum, but no one knows you're there. You don't have the identity. There is no recording saying that you are at that country you can access the rights of the country, and it makes you vulnerable to the people who actually can abuse your situation. That's why registration is very important under refugee law. Let's go more into the physical protection, and it's usually the physical needs of the refugees or asylum seekers, and it's again, shelter, where they have a place to live with dignity, and usually it can be camps, shelter, urban areas, and sometimes host families. The main idea is that persons of concerns are safe and accommodated in a safe environment, secure environment. And in order to fulfill physical protection minimum standards, refugees need to be provided with adequate food, sanitation, hygienic products, and any non-food items that are needed in a specific context or emergency. We can think about it as like if a person has a medical problem which is ongoing, they need access to medical services and medicine. Now, case management, which I actually specialize in, are usually the cases where there's sexual gender-based violence. And I'm sorry, but there's someone there. Can I have 1 moment, please? Is that okay if I have 1 moment?
Yeah, yes, sure, yeah, sure. Okay, so we are all back. I see we're all back. And I'm really sorry, me and also Marius, for the hacker before. So sorry for that.
I'm sorry, guys, wrong delivery. I don't know what's going on today, really. Let's go back to the case management, which is a very sore subject, and it's usually the individuals who've been subject to or ongoing or survivors of sexual gender-based violence, who need, and children who need child protection services. That's usually unaccompanied or separated children from their families, or children who cannot access to education or basic needs. And access to services, just like we talked about, registration, medical services, social assistance. And what is case management is that it's an individual-based approach in which a person at risk faces challenges accessing protection services or services in general. Case management is usually done by the social workers who individually assess the person's situation and then plan with the participatory approach from the applicants, where they can actually come up with a solution to their problem, their requests. Now, I will go into durable solutions, which is under the 51 Convention as well, and UNHCR mandates, and it comes with the 3 option, which is voluntary repatriation. That means person who want to go back to their country voluntarily, and they can apply in the system where they are registered. Integration, where I talked about it, social cohesion is part of the integration, and that's assimilation to the host country. And third country resettlement, which most of the refugees in Turkey want to have resettled to a third country in the Western, especially the Western countries. And they claim that they cannot get their solutions or they cannot access to protection services in the country of asylum, and they want to go into a country where they can have this. But I'm going to talk about a third country resettlement a bit more, because most of you guys are from the Western countries where how it is going on. Usually the people who are admitted to the countries are people who are subject to sexual gender-based violence, and who are under ongoing threats. Especially this happened with the LGBTQI individuals, are people who are under medical treatment, but they don't have the actual medical treatment in the country of asylum, and they can go to another country, or family reunification, which usually happens with the unaccompanied children or separated children. This is all from me. I hope that you guys have questions for me, and we can share. I can give you case studies, and these are the main how can I say, definitions and the explanation, but please feel free to ask me any questions at the moment.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sinem. Thanks a lot. Maybe I can ask our participants if they want to write down any question. In the meanwhile, maybe we can give the floor to Antoniette. to hear from her, and then we are back with the questions, if that works for you. Can we, Ms. Antoniette, can we hear from you?
Okay. Well, I first of all, thank you for the presentation, which I find very interesting, especially as somebody like myself who has a refugee background. And I came to the Netherlands, like I say, 13 years ago, and my start was very rough. So maybe that's why I also decided to have a close look on what is actually, like what you just explained, the international instruments and what are the country doing nationally. And what I notice is that a lot of focus is being put on Turkey, on Italy, on Greece in terms of not doing what they are supposed to do. But we find that in Western part, like the Netherlands, they are also not doing very well, but it's not documented. So of course, when I came, for example, if I'm allowed to share my personal story, is that I was jailed for 3 months and I was pregnant. I was 8 months pregnant, but because the police the police who saw me the first time make the wrong assumption, then that's how I found myself in prison. And although the law says that you cannot have a child in prison, well, okay, they put me out of the prison to go to the hospital to have the baby with handcuffed. I was with 3 police and I was traumatized because I was a victim of abuse in the world, but I was also a first-time mom. So for me, I didn't understand the language. I see going, you know, the most happy moment of your life to give a baby, you are handcuffed and you are with police in a developed country. It really, for me, make me forget that I was even raped in my own country, because that was like a second time. So what I understand is that in the conference I have been attending, we are refugees are stigmatized. They are not receiving the appropriate support. And like what you just said, like, for example, if you should have priority as a survivor of gender-based violence, then I would not have been in prison. And I would, they would not put my son back to prison. And during the asylum, when you are being questioned to see if you deserve to stay in the country, for example, in case of rape, they want to know who raped you, how many times, if he's tall, if he's short, if he's dark, if he's light. So those are the things that are going to go on maybe 9 months, maybe 3 years. So even after you are admitted to stay in the country, you are no longer the same person, because your past and haunt you. And then at the end of the day, because you touch on something about security, because for people, we refugee, when we enter, we are a matter of security. We are not human. So we are questioned every day of our life, who we call, who we talk to, how we react, if you are intelligent, if you are seen like stupid. And I think that's a fight that we all have to do, to claim every time that this is what the international instruments are meant to be, and this is what is happening nationally, and not looking only from countries that are poor, but it's a less privileged, let's say in case of where Italy is already a country that is challenging itself in terms of providing the necessary to its own population. So the frustration among the population is understandable. But what we have to stress is the international instruments for which the countries are signatory, especially the most rich one, because there's discrimination, there's tagging people don't have access to job, our children are being discriminated in school, and we have no platform. Everybody seems to think they know what we need, but they never give us the voice to say what we need ourselves, because in the world we did not lose the voice. And I think I am happy to be here to exchange with you, to say that exactly the challenge you are saying is exactly, if not worse, because in a place where you think things are perfect, that's where you don't see what's not going right. We have had some session. I'm working actually on with the University of The Hague of Applied Science in the Department of Law to see what are the international instruments like you just mentioned, and what are the gap, the Netherlands, where is Netherlands failing in its commitment to ensure that people are safe, that people receive mental health, that people have access to right legal instruments. So I think if we come together, wherever the refugee are, away from home, whatever that home is, and we stress the need of coming back to why these international instruments exist. So today I have made a long way because now I'm in a diplomatic position, but I hope that this position will allow me to bring again this research on the table, because we deserve to discuss about this and to find a lasting solution, because it's a lost generation. And just a little example I still wanted to say, there's a young Eritrean who arrived in the Netherlands. She was 16, so it's underage. And because of lack of support, she's alone. She fell in to the hands of, I would say, of an older man who married her. She's only 21. She has already 4 children. And so the abuser started to accuse her to the government, to the social child protection, that she was beating her children, while actually it's the man who was beating her. The police came without any consideration of listening to the lady. They took her children away, and she tried to commit suicide by burning the apartment. Unfortunately, or fortunately, she did not die, but then she was brought in prison because she constituted a danger to the society. So this tells you how everything is just on paper. How can you expect that a child that came in the Netherlands at 16, who went through Libya, who was raped on the road, who come here, you don't give her any protection and any safe space, and then whenever she's depressed and do something, you are like, oh, you are a danger to the society. And these are things that has to come to the table when we do research, because there are a lot non-said things that, yeah. So let me keep it short, but I'm very much interested in committing my time in this type of discussion.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. I actually want to give you a legal perspective as you're studying as well. The convention of any kind of discrimination against women, and there is another convention in which they say any kind of violence against women is prohibited, and almost all the European Union countries are signatory to it, and they have to adapt to their national law. So in this case, in the cases that you just mentioned, unfortunately, the police force did not apply the law properly, and they are complied by it. And if the person actually made a complaint to the relevant authority, they would have been suspended. Unlike Turkey, which never happens actually, who they terminated the CEDAW, the Convention Against Discrimination Against Women, but we still have the national law. But the police has always been problematic in applying the law. So I definitely understand your perspective. It's disappointing to see this kind of application in a very developed country, but unfortunately, it's the same situation in every except for Switzerland, maybe or the Scandinavian countries. This has been a problem, and I have seen cases where most of the refugees who went to Europe through third country resettlement or irregular migration, they came back saying that they cannot adjust. They've been subject to the racial discrimination. They cannot adapt the culture, and they've been very mistreated, like the one, especially in Greece, where maybe you saw the news, and the south of Italy, and where they actually repelled the movement of the refugees, even though the non-refoulement is at like it's on effect, and the asylum seeker rights is affected, most of the countries do not comply by it. But in the cases like this, at least there are humanitarian actors and human rights foundations where the person can apply, and they have a right to have a lawyer where they can be represented in the who are, if they're arrested. And it's best to know the actual, as humanitarian actors ourselves, it's best to approach these people, give the actual consultation and how to get access to their rights. And this is what we do here. Their legal representation is the utmost importance, especially with the cases just like you just described. That's what I can say to you, because I'm very committed. Especially I'm a child right and a women right and LGBTQI right in human rights defender, let's say, human rights defender. And I usually manage cases like this, and it's very important to provide proper policy advocacy to the relevant authorities, saying that, okay, these are the law, these are the applications, and you need to do this. They either comply or they don't, but here you have to put the communication skill there. Yeah. You guys look overwhelmed. Is everything all right? I know it's a very heavy subject. Please, Francesca, go for it.
Okay, so thank you very much for your presentation, and also to Antonietta for sharing her story. It's really interesting, and yes, it's a complex subject. Actually, I have 3 questions. I will try. Maybe for one, I would like to ask you if just you can give me I don't know, like a quick overview, and it's regarding to women's legislation, let's say, in Turkey. So I know that about the Istanbul Convention, but so which law have you got to defend women gender-based violence or here in Turkey?
Let me start with that, and then let's go question by question. So there's a national law called numbered 6284, where it's only, it's kind of like an adaptation of the convention of CEDAW convention, even though Turkey's gone from international law, but that doesn't negate that the national law is null and void. It's not, it doesn't mean it's eliminated. So the law still applies, even if even if there was no law such as that. There's Turkish criminal law, where there are definitely, how can I say, there are definitely penalties for violence, rape, and child abuse, or denying child or women to have access to justice system. So if there are national laws in place, and there are very much many lawyers, many prosecutors, and many foundations or associations who are in place where these women, doesn't matter from what nationality, doesn't matter if they're registered or not, they can access and they can have the lawyer and defend their rights. So there are options there.
Okay, thank you so much. Then during my stay here in Turkey, what I heard, like talking with locals, is that, for example, Syrian refugees, they receive a financial income per month of 100 euros. Sorry, liras. Is it true? Is not true?
Well, this is something we hear every day in the field. All right. It's a problem and a not. The problem is that they have such a challenge to accessing livelihood opportunities, job opportunities, because the national law to work as a foreigner is very strict. For example, let me give it like this. A Syrian refugee, if they're employed and to get social security from that, the workplace has to employ 10 nationals. In that case, it's very challenging, and they have to apply for the work visa. It takes a lot of time. So what happened is the European Union said, especially ECHO, which is under European Union, they gave a vast amount of money to Turkish government and semi-Turkish organization called Turkish Red Crescent, where they give monthly salary-wise, but it's a very minimum amount. And considering the economic challenges Turkey is facing right now, it's not really enough. So they do get the assistance, but they have nothing else. So that's the thing, unlike the host community person, yes. But they always think that it's coming from Turkish government. No, it's coming from ECHO.
Perfect, thank you. I didn't know. And the last question instead is that about social cohesion. In your opinion, what is lacking the government or also the society in general to really have this integration or to reduce hate crimes towards refugees?
That's a very political, at the same time, very humanitarian question, but humanitarian crisis was always political. So I will give my very neutral opinion. And the problem is that it's after the mass movement, it has been a very challenging process for Turkish government because we're talking about 4 million people. So they had a problem with helping them to integrate. And they have the projects, they fund the projects, and especially migrant management try to have many projects, many events, so that they can actually try to assimilate the refugee community. But it comes from usually from like it's best NGOs or international NGOs or UN agencies where they can actually have their projects with regard to both Turkish and Syrian, host community and the Syrian refugee community, where they can actually work together. Let me give you one example. I implemented a project about women empowerment. It was giving vocational training, 50% Syrian women and 50% Turkish citizen women. And at first I could see that they were like in corners of the room when it first started. But at the end of the project, they decided to have businesses together. They would go to their houses, have cake and cooking sessions and everything. So it comes from the projects, and it's very important to have that. Yes, there's a racial movement, but it's in every country. No one can say there is no racism in any country, as we have seen. But it comes from trying to explain the situation. It doesn't help that it's been 10 years here and they've been here, and I have a little bit of criticism for the refugee communities that they don't want to integrate as well. They are not learning the language. They don't want to go to the school. They are having very difficulty to adjusting the Turkish system. And they said that if we do that, we feel like we're going to lose our culture, which is understandable. But and I usually advocate them saying that, but you need to get your everyday, how can I say, chores, you know? You have to get things done for yourself. And without the language, it's always going to pose a problem for you.
Thank you so much, really, thank you.
I think what you say, if I may add what I find interesting, because I've been a refugee in Kenya, which is an East African country. And there, refugee are money-making machine for others. So which means like you live in a camp, and if, for example, let's say UNHCR is giving you some oil or some bread, then the people who are bringing it to you are already poor people, or they have a very low income. So they sell the rice, they sell the oil, they sell all the things that are meant for refugee. But what you see is also on the UNHCR, on the top in Geneva or in the, offices, nice offices, they don't really care what happened on the ground, or it's administration. But I think for speaking from a refugee, I still do believe that we have to account responsible the international instruments, their failure to put pressure on the country. And you see, for example, UNHCR in the Netherlands, they almost just a little advice to the government. So it means they don't exert any pressure. So I still think that when you are a refugee in a poor country that is already challenged with their own legal instruments and the politics, it becomes even more difficult for refugee to have a meaningful life. And that's where the confusion, I mean, the difficulties. When I came to the Netherlands, I mean, I missed my family. So it's just difficult to click like this and to integrate, because indeed, sometimes when you are happy, you feel that you forgot your people. And when you are drinking tea, you are wondering if your mom who stayed back is having tea. So I think we fail to understand that being a refugee is you find yourself like you from one second you are here and you are here and you have, I am 13 years here and I have an impression that Antoinette is not my name, because I don't recognize the Antoinette I was in my country. And the Antoinette here, I find I'm fake, because I don't get to love what I used to love, because it does not pass to the society in which I am. So I think we need really strong advocacy to understand the basic need. The refugee has become a definition that we give ourselves, external people, but the people who are refugee, they are just Antoinette, they are just Peter, they are just Francesca. They don't know what it means to be refugee, that we have tagged that name. And I think I failed to see, I was in a conference, there was also Turkey, Italy, a lot of refugee with UNHCR, is that UNHCR has failed us to follow us wherever we're going and ensure that we receive the appropriate, because they have the power to enforce that international and the people who are signatory. So if a country like Turkey is challenged, they deserve also support, extra support for the challenge they are facing as a country who's not the top mature economy, so that they reduce the frustration among the Turkish people who are also looking for a job, who also need to have a minimum income. It's very difficult to accept a Syrian or another person who come and you have the feeling they are eating your bread. So I think, yeah, that's where maybe Sinem, your work is valuable, is to really understand what was meant, those instruments, and how are they actually meant, without even looking Turkey or another country, but what is the responsibility of the international community who set up those instruments to ensure that they follow the refugee until a certain minimum end. And maybe that's the frustration I find sometimes.
I agree with you with the UNHCR having not effective programming with regard to, but they're trying. I was there. I worked with them for 3 years, and it's very challenging. I mean, you need to understand that we're talking about not a couple of thousand people, we're talking about millions. You cannot follow millions. And it's very difficult to do that. And there's still irregular movement. There's always more people are coming for asylum, and it's very difficult to do that. Turkey currently in the world has the biggest refugee crisis. And I understand, because I work with them for the last 6 years, but I understand the government's position as well. It's very difficult to manage this amount of people and to follow up with them.
May I ask one question about it? Actually, yeah, my question was indeed, what is your opinion about this agreement that was made in 2016 between European Union and Turkey about managing the refugee, the one from Syria especially, in hosting them in Turkey, while the European Union will pay a certain amount of money? Because my opinion, I think Turkey is put under too much stress, let's say, because it's okay, European Union pays some money, definitely, but still it's not so easy to manage millions of people, especially in a very short period of time, because in a matter of a few years, you know, like 4 million point, I don't know, many came in the country, and of course it requires a lot of policies to manage them. So I found myself that it was a bit kind of a shortcut for the European Union to kind of, you know, delegate the issue to Turkey without taking their own responsibility as it should be, because they advocate, the European Union advocate for human rights, but then they didn't open much their borders when it was when there was the Syrian war. So I found it a bit incoherent and hypocrite, let's say, this kind of policy. But of course, I would like to ask you what will be your opinion, and also, if possible, to have a little bit few more information about Ankara. What is the situation maybe in Ankara, especially we work with refugees in Ankara, and I find it true that there are many who are glad, let's say, to stay and to integrate, but also we found certain communities, let's say, of refugees that they really don't feel too much to integrate in Turkish society. They don't really learn the language. They're not very much included, let's say. Yeah, if you can share a bit.
Of course, about the agreement, I completely think the same as you. So there's no, I cannot contribute to that because I think the same thing. It was more like a delegation and Europe saying that you deal with that. You deal with that. I'll give you money and you deal with that. And Turkey has been really under pressure with this. And with Ankara, the problem in Ankara and also it could be an opportunity is it is the center of all the ministries, all the politics. So any NGO or UN agency operating in Ankara has direct access to the relevant authorities. So in that case, your advocacy policies, your advocacy projects can meet people who are relevant and who have the authority in the place of your operation. So for example, here I'm in the field in the Southeast and I have to go to the provincial directorates, but you have the access to ministry. It's very difficult to access them, but at the same time, through advocacy, you can actually come up with your projects and you can actually manage their projects with them, or just activities in the international days. In Ankara, there are many also humanitarian actors there. You can actually have, unlike Adana, unlike Adana, there are almost 40. In Adana, almost 10 humanitarian actors, so you can have collaboration. I think that you have that opportunity there. And there is other opportunities that the amount, like the number of refugees in Ankara is not that much, unlike other provinces. For example, in Gaziantep, there are more than 500,000. In Istanbul, almost 1 million. But in Ankara, 100,000. So in that case, it gives you opportunity to go district by district, try to have social cohesion projects or activities or any kind of event where you can reach people through the districts where they reside the most. Because in every city, there are several neighborhoods where Syrians live together. They want to close to the community that they are part of. So you can target those neighborhoods and try to have connection with them. And this is an idea. But your other question was that, I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yes, related to, I guess you replied at the beginning to European Union and Turkey.
Yeah, so yeah, I completely agree. I'm still a bit pissed off about that.
I don't know. Yeah. Also considering that as far as my knowledge, this money were not even sent them all, let's say, just half of it, and maybe now they are speaking about sending 3 billion more, but in fact, the amount was not even sent as agreed.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons there was a crisis 1.5 years ago where the president said, you're not sending us the money, and I'm opening my border.
Yeah.
Because you're not supporting us. And there was a huge crisis, but who suffered? Refugees suffered. Yeah. They were subject to violence by the Greece police. They were subject to many unlivable conditions where they wanted to go to Europe, thinking that they will have great experience and they will have many much better living situation. Like I said, it's a very political situation and it's always problematic. And I don't think that there's a permanent solution to that. Realistically. We can talk about all the laws and regulation, but if the countries are not applying it, what can we do? We can advocate.
But I believe if we create a stronger platform for refugees to voice their concern, the conference that was organized by UNHCR this September had almost, I think, 10 or 12 European countries. There was also Turkey, but to create a stronger platform where refugees can tell their story, and with the hope that at least even in terms of the international instrument have to be more inclusive, be more prepared, like what Jacobo just mentioned. I find it also very interesting that we give you money so the problems stay over there. So that means when you are a refugee, it should be the concern of everybody, not the country only where you are hosted. Because like I say, I was in Kenya, but Kenya is a poor country. The person who's bringing me the oil barely can pay the school fees of their children. So what do you expect? But I believe if we create a platform, especially with that we have young people among us like this who are attending, who are not in all this politics and all this crazy, prejudice, who just want as young people to make a difference in the world. So I think if we create a platform to give them more space to speak, to get out their frustration, they will have dialogue also with the local people, and so that they understand that they learn to have that cohesion between people of the world. Because I don't agree also for Europe, the richer country, to give money to the less privileged countries and say, oh, you take this mess, is not mine because I don't want this terrorist in my country. When Afghanistan people arrived in the Netherlands, people were saying horrible things. We don't want this terrorist. And you will think families have fled the things we see on television, and then you hear people making comments, we don't want this terrorist or a child pass, and so this culture is something we have to fight, to put refugee voice on the forefront, to let not organization always speak for refugee, but give the voice, even if it's just 2-3 refugee, but give them a platform so they can actually change with real life stories.
I can actually make you feel better about this because there are many platforms. UNHCR is not the only one. UNFPA has, OHCHR has, UN Women has amazing events lately where everybody was there. There are other NGOs have that, like International Relief Organization, Care International. There are many platforms you can access to that. So UNHCR is not the only one. There's IOM as well. In that case, you can, there are also NGO forums, humanitarian forums in place. You can see in LinkedIn, actually, I'm kind of a member to those as well. And they, like I said, just relying on UNHCR, I don't think it's sufficient. It's best to access to all the humanitarian actors there so that they can have a united front, just like you said. And there are platforms for that. Any other questions from you guys? You guys look very overwhelmed, especially Esra, Annalisa, and Nelly. They're like, oh my God, what did we just listen?
I can just mention the meanwhile that some participants were saying goodbye wrote me privately because they needed to go, and two of them, they didn't have any more internet. but they were thanking a lot for this session. So I don't know if there is any last question, maybe Ezra, yes?
Annalisa has a question. Yeah, I would ask, in Italy in particular, in some case, this is a kind of business, maybe. How we can stop this kind of business with refugees or migrants?
What kind of business? Can you explain more?
I mean, hosting this person, for example, in Sicily in particular, most of the time is a kind of business. I mean,
maybe Annalisa, I can, like, are you referring, for example, to Roma Capitale, this kind of?
Yes, like this. I would ask if there is a way to stop this kind of business.
That is actually exploitation of the refugees, because they are a vulnerable group. When there is a business like this, that means it's kind of a human trafficking or human smuggling. And in that case, in order to avoid that, it is best to it's best to give consultation to the refugees, saying that it's not legal. You can file a complaint, and humanitarian agencies, I'm sure it's in effect in Italy as well. Or individuals, you have the obligation to report any crime that you witness. So having a business trying to locate the people without just to get a monetary gain is an exploitation of a situation, and it shouldn't be legal. Because we had that problem in Turkey as well. People would get money, but when we come across, we definitely file a complaint against these people. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. It always comes down to the individuals who witnessed that and the organizations who witnessed this. But I'm sure you guys have the law.
There was indeed a big scandal in Italy about that, because it was called Roma Capitale, like there were associations hosting refugees, but then taking the funds for them and basically not giving more than 10%, or using very low amount. So yeah, there were some cases, unfortunately, where it was an exploitation, of course, of people.
Definitely. Unfortunately, this is very common as well. There are always opportunists, but it is best as people who are human rights defenders or who believe in human rights to report these crimes, because it is a crime.
Okay, I guess we may close with the session. So thank you very much to all our participants, and thank you especially to Ms. Sinem for this wonderful presentation. And well, I will see you also in the next sessions. We will have 2 more sessions. It will be a great pleasure to see you again. Thank you once again.
Jacobo, I have one question.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you were talking about, this is the first session of the 3. It's the first one, this one is legal framework, and the third one is climate refugees. And I didn't catch the second topic, the topic of the second session.
The second will be on the main itineraries of people who are like asylum seeker. So basically, especially the Asian and Libyan routes. So what are the main itineraries? Yeah, we will have some expert also speaking about this.
Okay, thank you so very much for facilitating, and Sinem, thank you so very much for sharing your presentation, your insights, and the profound knowledge and experience you have, working in Turkey. I hope one day, who knows, we can invite you, Antoinette, and I can invite you to the Netherlands to share your, evidence-based cases. And at least let's stay in touch, because this is so important, and so, it exceeds everything. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I want to thank everyone who were patiently here and listening to me, giving these heavy subjects. I will give my personal email to Jacopo. You can ask me or contact me anytime you want. I can send you all the instruments if you guys are doing research or how you can access them. And I want to thank you for your contribution and for your participation, especially Antoinette to you. And thank you, Jacopo, for including me in this wonderful session. And I'm sorry we had to experience a very, very weird event.
Yes, we're very sorry. No, indeed, of course, this will be deleted, but this part of the video, the presentation, will be shared with the Annalyn Foundation. So it will be shared in the channels. This is a big network, so they will share with the organization in 42 countries, so in the Euro-Mediterranean region. So many more people can be reached through this session, so they can watch after it. So it will be still very useful. Also, we will share with our youth, and some of them, I guess they're following us live streaming. So more than we are here are in fact benefiting from the session.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.